Hey A&Pers, this is Dr. Jones checking in. This is A&P 1, Lecture Test 1, and I think I got mixed up on the video numbers because I think I skipped number 15. At the very least, when I tried to label the last video, which I had on the list as 15, it said 15 was already taken. So it's possible that I have another video in here and I didn't get it written down. It's also possible that I labeled video 14 video 15, and of course have now labeled video 15 as video 16. So that makes this video 17, because I don't know how to change all of that without it being tedious and possibly losing a video, which I'm not willing to risk at all. So this is video 17 of yeah, it's probably 16, but we're going with it. And we left off in the middle of page 24 because you don't start transcription and translation in the middle of a video. They're their own thing. So we're at 3.4, DNA controls protein synthesis, cell structure, and function. So on mine, and it may or may not be on yours, this first bit in red is need to know. So step 1 on the spotlight, figure 3.7, protein synthesis, page 78 and 79, is transcription. Transcription is when DNA makes an mRNA. Step 2 on the spotlight is translation. Translation is when a ribosome reads the mRNA to make a protein. Need to know. Indeedy. Okay, so let's go through this picture then. I think I have, do I? Next? There we go. And my head is in the way. Move. Okay. So here we have transcription. It happens inside the nucleus. You see the double membrane with the nuclear pores. And you see the DNA. And the DNA unzips. You may recall the two sides of the DNA twisty ladder are held together with hydrogen bonds, which are the weakest of the 3 bonds we discussed. So what happens is they just, there's an enzyme, and they get just pulled apart. And it just, it's like a Ziploc. Like you just pull it apart and then they're apart. And so an enzyme runs down the side and makes a copy of the template strand, and so it will match the coding strand, but we'll get there. So it makes an mRNA, and making the mRNA from the DNA in the nucleus is transcription. So it's where a gene's worth of DNA is copied to mRNA. So to me, this is like your grandma's recipe book. Say your grandma has a recipe book with every recipe she's ever made. All your favorites are in here. The bread, the Mississippi mud, the oyster casserole. Okay, I hated the oyster casserole, but I always tried it every Thanksgiving, and I would give money now to taste her oyster casserole again. I'd probably still hate it, but seriously, it's grandma's. So grandma's recipe book with all of the recipes she's ever made in her whole life, everything she's ever made for you, it's in there. Ooh, the goulash. Strawberry pie. 2 grandmas, so lots of recipes. So you want to know how to make those fabulous date roll cookies. Is grandma, and I know your grandma loves you, but is grandma gonna give you her recipe book of all of her recipes to walk out the door? No. No, not even a chance. What is your grandma going to do? She is going to pull out a 5x8 index card and she's going to handwrite out in cursive how to make those date roll cookies. They're so good. Okay, and it's going to be like the ingredients on the front, the instructions on the back, and you're going to treasure it forever. Right? Okay, so transcription is grandma writing you a copy of one protein on an index card. And that's the part that gets out the door. Because is grandma's recipe book, is your whole DNA going to fit through the nuclear pore? No, the DNA doesn't fit through the nuclear pore, and grandma's not letting you take that imaginary recipe book with all of her recipes in it. Although, frankly, the recipe for bread is not going to help you any because a pinch and a smidge and until the texture is right are really hard to replicate. So, but your copy on the index card, your mRNA, that fits through the door. It fits through the nuclear pore, and you can take that home and you can try the recipe at home. So making a copy of the recipe is transcription, where you make an mRNA. The mRNA is the messenger RNA, and it carries the message. A fly just flew past my head. Out of the cell and into your home, which in this allegory, is it an allegory? Hashtag not an English major. In this example is going to be the cytosol, specifically ribosome. So translation is you making the recipe. Okay? So the free ribosomes read the mRNA and make a protein that floats off in the cytosol. So this is proteins for use inside your own home, inside the cell. If it goes, the same mRNA goes to a fixed ribosome, then the protein gets made into the cisternae, the chambers of the RER. And that's when you use grandma's recipe to make bread to sell. So, strawberry pie. I said something about strawberry rhubarb pie the other day, and my kid is like, "What's rhubarb?" And I'm like, I have failed. All right, so translation is the ribosome reads the mRNA and makes a protein. And how do you make the mRNA? I was supposed to click back. It was, okay, transcription. It's how you make the mRNA. And then you use the MR to make protein. That's translation. Excellent. So then this shows that these are released for use in the cell, and then these are released into the cisternae. And then we talked about transport vesicles, right? So it goes into the transport vesicle, which then carries it. Ooh, where did the transport vesicles go? Transport vesicles go from the ER to the, do you remember? Golgi. They carry it to the Golgi, and then the Golgi packages it. It processes it, and it just keeps moving it in next stack, from cistern to cistern of the dinner plates. And it gets modified as it goes. And then the Golgi, as you know, makes 3 different types of vesicles. Need to know. And they are the membrane renewal vesicles, the secretory vesicles, we'll talk about this term exocytosis here in a minute, and of course, my favorite, the lysosomes. Are we still on page 24? We are. We're going through the picture. Okay, so now we're back to the note set, and we are here at transcription, which is when you make an mRNA from a gene's worth of DNA, which I think I've said 6 times now, but it's a need to know. mRNA is messenger RNA. It's formed by transcription. And the RNA polymerase, which I hadn't said before, I told you there was an enzyme. Now I'm telling you the enzyme of transcription is RNA polymerase. It's the enzyme that transcribes, it makes the mRNA. Okay. Why is it so important to make a messenger RNA? Because it can get out the door, unlike the entire recipe book, which does not fit out the door. So it can leave the nucleus through the nuclear pore, and the DNA cannot. Transcription is a process of copying a gene's worth of DNA to a new strand of mRNA. You got it. Oh, the two strands of DNA are the, here we go, the template strand, which we have mentioned, and the coding strand. And we are using the template strand as the template that we're copying, hence the name. And the template strand is the one we care about. So we don't care about the other. Okay, so the steps of transcription. Okay, so here's our gene's worth. Here's the whole DNA. And here's one gene's worth that they've folded out flat to draw easier. And step 1 is the DNA unzips. We talked about those hydrogen bonds being weak bonds. You just pull them apart. And the RNA polymerase attaches to the template strand. It attaches to what's called a promoter codon. And then the RNA polymerase moves down the template strand and it attaches, I need the next picture. There we go. It attaches the RNA nucleotides, which are just floating around in the cytosol already. And so it builds the mRNA strand with the complementary base pairs. T binds to A binds to U, because we're DNA to RNA rules now. C binds to G binds to C, G binds to C, C binds to G, and so on and so forth, until, number 3, you hit the, my face is in the way, you hit the stop codon, which tells you to stop. At the end of the gene, the RNA polymerase and the mRNA strand release that allows the DNA to, it's like magnets. They just, whoop. Ooh, I saw, oh, what brand was it? Was it Tommy Hilfiger? Some brand had a line of accessible clothing. So, you know, if lots of people can't button because their fingers don't do that. I have a cousin who's quadriplegic and he can't button. But they have a line of clothing that have magnets instead of buttons. And so if you get them lined up and close enough, they just, and so kind of like hydrogen bonds. They also, in the clothes, they had each leg had a separate way to like roll up, but like inside and like attach. And so that if you have legs of different lengths, and same with like the arms, and there, it was like a whole thing of making it easier to wear if you have disabilities. They even had pants that were much higher in the back, because if you're in a wheelchair, if your pants are the same height in the back, then they're kind of low. And I think the shirts were even longer in the back. Anyway, I was really impressed because sometimes it's hard to find clothes that work when you're not quite standard. So, I don't know if that was Tommy Hilfiger or not. Anyway, how much DNA needs to be copied to an mRNA? A gene's worth. A gene is enough to make one protein. That's your index card of one recipe for one protein that can leave your grandma's house, and then you make it. That's translation. Transcription is making the index card of mRNA, and translation is then making date roll cookies. Now I need date roll cookies. I totally shouldn't have said that. All right. So it takes 3 DNA nucleotides, a triplet. My face is in the way again. A triplet, a DNA triplet, to code for one amino acid. And an mRNA, that's called a codon. So DNA triplet and an mRNA codon. Top of page 25. Each nucleotide is matched with a complementary nucleotide-based pair, so DNA to RNA rules apply. So we've got adenine binds to an mRNA uracil. Because there's no thymine in RNA, only uracil, and the A binds to U. Remember the gold golf course? T still binds to A because there is adenine in RNA. G and C, C and G, they're just buddies, like Abed and Troy. They're just a thing. It's community. Okay, so if you have the DNA template AAA, what's your mRNA codon? A binds to U. So if you have DNA triplet AAT, what's your mRNA codon? So DNA to RNA rules, A binds to U. So U, U, and then T binds to adenine. ACA, that'll be U, G, U. And if I'm going too fast, you can pause these, work them out in your head, and then come back. Okay. So sometimes I'll ask you to go backwards. Say we have mRNA codon GUU. What DNA triplet made that? What are the complementary base pairs? Well, G was bound to C. U was bound to A. And U was bound to A. Ka. Okay. And then TAC, so T binds to A binds to U, and C binds to G. It's August. All right, and then TCG, AGC, just like that. GGC, it's the exact same as the DNA one was. CCG, GCC, going backwards, still the exact same. C, G, G. There you go. Easy peasy, C and G. Cytosine and guanine in the morning. Did that finish that page? Oh, that just barely started that page. In this way, each DNA triplet is transcribed to an mRNA, ooh, what was that word? Codon. You got it. Given the DNA triplet of ACG, where's our ACG? Oh, I don't have an ACG. So given a DNA triplet of ACG on the template strand, the complementary mRNA codon is UGC. After editing the mRNA, and this is where you can make the pancakes into blueberry pancakes or banana pancakes or apple cinnamon pancakes. After editing, the mRNA strand leaves the nucleus through the nuclear pore, and I have Watch Smart Art video written down. Some of these videos, the newer edition has, what are the squares called? The squares that link to things. And I know what they're called, and I just can't think of it. I can't think of it. But anyway, if you aim your smartphone camera at them, it will take you to a page that will show a video, Smart Art video. So please, watch those. All right, well, this feels like 15, 20 minutes, and I've not put a timer on for a while. I don't think I put a timer on today. We are about to lose the light, so this might be enough videos for the day. We can come back with the next video and talk about translation from mRNA into a polypeptide. So this will be the transcription video, which will be video 17, although I'm fairly certain it's the 16th video, so that happened. And we did part of 24 and a smidge of 25. It's always nice to see you here. Thank you for tuning in. The education must go on. Dr. J out.